Welcome and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Water Connections Irrigation Training Series. I'm your host, Richard Restuccia, and today we're going to talk about something that I think really gets not enough play, is really critical to the success of your irrigation, your watering, your water management, and often gets ignored because people think it is just too hard, and that is your sprinkler irrigation design. And what I find as a result is some people just wing it. And some of the disasters I've seen as a result of that, mainly in wrong sizing of pipes so that their system just doesn't deliver the amount of water they need, which continues to provide trouble for time year in and year out, and makes a very expensive repair because you have to go back in and retrench everything. So today we're going to help you not have that problem, but more importantly, find a tool that's free that's going to actually help you do an irrigation design that when you see the speed in which this happens, you're going to be amazed. The person taking us through this today is Brad Wardle. He's vice president at Beehive. We had Brad on last month to talk about Beehive controllers. Brad's really a wealth of technology knowledge when it comes to irrigation. Boy, when I saw what he's done with Beehive, and there's literally millions of those controllers out there saving water every day. And then he showed me this design for irrigation. I thought, oh, this is a guy I have to get to know better because he's got a lot of time-saving tools. Brad, welcome. Thanks for joining us today and taking us through this.
So good to be back with you, Richard. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to talk about this.
Yes, so Brad, help me out and help our viewers out right away. Why should I care about doing an irrigation design?
Well, why should you care? Anyone who wants to keep their landscape alive, particularly in the West, relies generally on an underground irrigation system. Now, a lot of those are just put in haphazardly. I've seen designs from even our local distributors that homeowners come home with, and they have a plan from them, and they put them in, and they're mixing sprays and rotors, and they're doing all sorts of things that bad design made my hair go gray. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. We launched this designer over a decade ago. It's produced a lot of plans for homeowners, and we're excited to talk about it today because a good irrigation system starts with a good design. And if you can get the design right, you can have a system that's easy to maintain, that's going to keep your grass green. You're not going to have brown spots popping up all over, and it's going to give you just the benefit of years and years and years of really a lower maintenance landscape than you would if you just start kind of throwing things in and guessing how this works. So the sprinkler design tool takes really any level of expertise and gives them an output that is a pro or expert level design.
Yeah, I want to stop right there for a second. 20 years ago, I was sitting at a distributor doing a counter day. An attorney walked in and said to one of the counter guys, hey, will you help me do an irrigation design for my house? And they said, well, you want to talk to that guy over there. He came over and I said, sure, can you help me do articles of a corporation for the business I want to start after we do that, right? Meaning, you at that time, 20 years ago, you just couldn't sit down and teach somebody how to do a design. It took a lot of education, a lot of schooling. Is this really this design tool that's free? It really can do all that for us?
It can really do all that for you. When I started at Orbit many, many years ago, I actually was doing designs that were mailed in to Orbit by hand. We took that process, which I'll just tell you, I did a lot of those. I liked doing that, but I like this way better. It really can take all of that expertise and throw it in here for you, give you an output that's really amazing. So yeah, just speaking of that, let me just share some of what the tool does. So it gives you instant design. So there's no waiting around for a plan. You don't have to draw something out, mail it off, wait for something to come back. This is an instant design. It's going to work on your computer, tablet, or phone. So fantastic there. It's for full systems. It's for partial systems. If you're going to do, maybe someone finished the front yard, but you've got to finish the backyard. You don't know what to do. You can go in and just put your backyard in, and it will give you an output for that. It has really fast and easy draw features, which are just incredible. You can draw from scratch. You can use a Google map. Meaning you can go into Google. I'll show you how to do that today. use a plat map, use a yard plan. Maybe you've had a landscaper put a plant plan together for you. You can go in and put that into the tool, trace right over the top of that. You're going to get with it a PDF guide. The guide is lengthy. It's a very comprehensive guide. Get a lot of ink and a lot of printer paper if you're going to print it out, or just use it on your tablet or phone, and you can go through that design very quickly and easily. It gives you an installation guide, parts list, zone by zone maps, and much more. And the best part about it, it's free to use.
And
so,
Brad, you're going to actually show us this today, actually online.
We're going to go through a design today, Richard. Absolutely. Yes.
Should I plan on being here for a few hours?
Oh, we can get a design done in minutes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
No worries there.
Okay, and I just want to remind everybody too, we've got the Q&A open. So if you have some questions, put them in there. I'll get them to Brad as we're going along. What we really want to do today is make sure that after this webinar, you can use this tool without our assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have the questions. So please let us know. What the tool does then is it's creating zones based really by head type and flow rate. Of course, flow rate being the limiting factor for how many heads you can put on a zone. It does not combine heads. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is people putting a spray and a rotor together. They have very different application rates. One will give you, Vancouver Island, one will give you the Sahara Desert. So if you're running them together, so you don't want to mix heads, we do not mix heads. Follows the principles of, essentially getting head-to-head coverage, and then puts really one of the things that's overlooked in the design tool that we don't talk about necessarily when we're showing people designs is the output. We're using products that have been developed over decades by irrigation professionals to make it so easy to put into system. So we have made this really easy. It uses Beehive smart timers. It uses push fittings, blue lock, PVC lock, drip lock. It uses pre-assembled manifolds, pressure regulated spray heads. Our nozzle tree on our rotors has really simple to use nozzles that have, a 1 GPM nozzle for a 90 degree, a 2 GPM for 180, 4 GPM for a full, etc. Even a valve box platform base to make it really simple, easy to install, and gives you a nice clean installation. So the step-by-step guide gives you all this, and it really uses some products that make it so that, well, in my case, I had a friend that we did a design, I gave him the design, and he took it, ordered all the parts, put it in, him and his wife in a Saturday, a full system in one day. So that's an irrigation novice, no prior experience, put in a full system. So really makes it easier. Now, one thing we don't talk about a lot too in doing this is what this tool provides is a really essential guide for a contractor as well. We'll show you some of the tools that a contractor can use here to make it just so simple and easy for them to go quote a system. And a lot of contractors will quote systems just based on a zone count, and they can quickly and easily look at this and say that looks right, or maybe I would adjust some things. But I've seen costs for systems from $800 or $900 all the way up to $2,300 per zone. And so we'll just show you how that maps out and how you can look at this and use it as a tool for a contractor as well. So
great story about your neighbor. I like that. Number two, this is actually going to print out what I need to go buy. Is that right?
Gives you a full parts list of everything you need to buy. And
does it work for retrofitting systems as well?
Absolutely. So like I mentioned, if you've got an old system, we'll show you this. If you've got a system installed and maybe you either need to finish a backyard, or maybe you're questioning, how is my system laid out? It seems like it's not watering properly. You could go do a design of your yard, look at how things are laying out or how they should lay out, look at how you've got them laid out, mark them on the same design, and make some repairs, add some heads where needed, make some corrections to your system.
Yeah. Oh man, that's exciting, because I mean, look, we see a certain number of new installs going in, but what I find is the real issue is all the retrofits. I mean, everybody wants to make sure their house is done well, and when it's not, this will be a good tool to correct it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So with that, Richard, are we okay to jump in and give you a little feel for the design tool?
Yeah, I'm nervous about this, right? It's always like live animal acts. Technology doesn't always work the way you want it, but hey, we went live from Stuart's house last week and saw all his cool technology working on at his house, and that was fine. We might as well try it here too.
You did. What you're seeing on the screen then is hopefully once you're in the tool. Now, if you haven't got an account in the tool, I'm actually going to log out and show you what that looks like. If you come to design.orbitonline.com, That's the web address, design.orbitonline.com. You can either sign up, or if you've already got an account, log back in. The sign up is just right there, super simple and easy. I'm going to sign in. I already have an account. So we're going to put that in. And we're going to sign right in. I can upload a design. I can start from scratch or open an existing plan. I'm just going to click start from scratch to show you some of the basic draw tools of the tool before we really dive in and do a full design. So
I'm glad you're going to do that, right? Because oftentimes I get stuck, right, trying to learn how to actually map things out. And so this will be a big time saver.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully this little tutorial up front will save people, anyone that's watching, anyone that views this later, a lot of headache in terms of just learning the tool. Once you learn the tool, it is incredibly simple and easy to use. Some of the best draw tools I've seen in programs like this anywhere, actually. So first thing, I can import the image, which I skipped. That would be a Google map. We're going to come back to that, but I'm just going to show you the basic tools. So I'm going to click on a lot. You'll see on this little floating toolbar, I can move this toolbar around. And it has freeform. Freeform means I can start clicking. So one click there, I can click. I can just start creating a design by clicking. Okay. At the end of that, I double clicked to stop adding points. And that's how I stopped the design from growing. That's key. So remember that. Double click to stop doing any design work you're doing. Now, if you look at this, I've got black dots, white dots, and green dots. A black dot is a point that I can move around. If I double click a black dot, it disappears. If I click on a green dot, I can create a curve and make curves. So most of our landscapes have a lot of curves in them today. So, curved beds and whatnot. So we can go ahead and make curves. If I don't want the curve anymore, I double click and it removes that curve. If I don't want these points again, double click. If I want to add another black point, which is another movable point, I click a white dot and just hold and drag, and I can move that around anywhere I want. If I want another one, I can make another one. If I want another one, and so on. So just a lot of easy to use design features. Now, that's freeform. Let me click on lot again, click on rectangle. If I click that, I just click the screen. It dumps a rectangle on the screen. And let me show you this. I can grab one of the gray bars and move a whole side if I want. I can go in and I'll show you what I showed you before, but I can go in and create a curve. Maybe I'm in a cul-de-sac and the front of my lot looks like that. So I can go create that. So that's just a quick example of some of the design features. There's an undo button, a redo button, measure, full screen. If I measure something, so let me put a house on here. I'll click on house outline. I'll click structure. I'm going to click rectangle. I'm going to drop that house on there. It's locked. It's moving with the plan. I can unlock that feature and move it around. I can still manipulate any of the points that I want to on that rectangle, even though I just dropped down a simple shape. So with that, I can click measure, and maybe I want to know if I'm, at the right distance to this point. I can do that. I can click measure and measure from here to here. Now the design gives a lot of these measurements already as you're adding features, but if you need to check a measurement on something, you can do that. And then I can hear clear measures. So
Brad, this is interesting, but today it's so easy to get a Google map of my house, an image, right?
It is indeed. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and show you how to make a plan from a Google image. So I'm going to just start on a new plan here, but let's go out to Google Maps. I have a yard that I just looked at minutes before our call. I have not done a design on this yard yet, but I was just looking at this one right here, kind of in the center of the screen. If that's my yard, maybe I have a system, maybe I don't, maybe I have landscaping, maybe I don't. But I can go in and I'm going to use my snip tool or print screen or anything that you have to capture that image. So I'm going to use my snipping tool.
So again, you went into Google Maps. In this case, you just selected a random property.
Yep.
And you're going to clip or, copy paste, that type of thing.
Yep. I'm going to just snip that image and I'm going to save that to my computer. So I'm just going to call that webinar. I've saved a webinar photo of a different property. I'm going to call that webinar 2. And that is now saved. Now, if I'm a contractor, someone calls me and says, hey, I want to bid, I could go to Google Maps, look at their property on Google Maps, and I can even use, Google has great tools in it. If I right click on a point and click measure distance, and then click on another point, it will give me that distance. Now, if you can't see that, its screen's too small, that's about 57 feet that I just measured there. We need that measurement in the design tool, okay? So
that's going to be your scale for everything else.
Yep, that's going to be my scale for the design. So I'm going to go import that image I just saved. I click on import image under my property section on the right tool panel there. There's my webinar 2 that I just saved. And I'm gonna open that up. Now I can zoom in and out with my mouse so that I can see that in the screen. Now I'm going to do the same thing I just did to measure it in Google. I'm going to click on one point, click on that next point, and I said that was 57 feet. Now the whole drawing is scaled. Now I can zoom back in on that. Now I don't like looking at my house sideways. So, and a lot of times you'll get an image that's, off kilter. It's at an angle. I don't like designing at an angle. And the design tool, I'll just tell you, likes really designing on grids. So I'm going to rotate that to an orientation that makes a lot more sense for me to keep looking at and adjusting in the design tool. So I'm going to square it up with this rotate or orient image piece that I'm doing here. And I'm good to go there. Okay, I've got an image now that I can trace over the top of.
Brad, I had a quick question from a viewer. We've got an international audience too, and they want to know, can they look at this in liters and meters as well?
That is a great question. I'm trying to remember if we added that. Richard, you've stumped me. Let me look at my account.
We can get to it at some point too, if you want to do it later, but
we have, let me just say it this way. We had that in our original version. We re-platformed this just a couple of years ago to HTML5. It was built in Flash originally. Too much detail for everyone that's listening, I know, but the old version had everything in metric as well. So you could go between metric or imperial. So great question. And we'll put that on the list of feature ads.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I've got this lot now. Again, I've not played with this lot at all, but I'm going to use freeform lot, and I'm just going to outline this lot very quickly, very easily. And we can adjust all these if they're not spot on later. I'm going to double click, as I mentioned, to stop drawing right there. This looks awfully close to the property line. I'm going to pull that line over. Maybe I've misplaced that a little bit. So let's just move that over. Well, let's see. Let's move it over to here. Okay, I've got a lot down. I can use the next button, or I can click on the next feature, which is house. I'm going to use freeform again, and I'm going to actually just trace this house almost exactly as it looks on here. This is real time. You are seeing how quickly this moves.
So you're plotting the house now, but there's a lot of concrete and other things there too. Do you have to do all that as well?
Yes, I'm going to do that as well. And let me show you a couple of things related to that. So the house design is essentially done. I can go fix some points. Maybe I'm a little skewed here. This is off a little. I can zoom in really quick and easy and add those points. I'm not going to spend a lot of time fixing all the details in this quick drawing. But so if you hit non-watered features, I can go add all of my non-water stuff like the concrete. So let's go do that. We'll just
And Brad, as you're going along, you would, when you're finished, be able to print all this out in hard copy if you needed to, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That looks like it goes clear to edge, and I'm seeing some. I'm just going to go clear to the front here. And you'll see I'm just clicking. Now, I'm not putting concrete over the house, I promise. You'll see how this kind of comes together. That sidewalk runs clear through. We're going to go quick. We'll fix them. I'm literally building the entire concrete portfolio here.
So if I want to know square footage for my driveway for some other job I was doing, I could find it here as well, pretty easily.
You could, yes, you could. Now I went a little fast and missed a couple of things, like I didn't put this in over here, so I can go back and and add that back in the way it's supposed to be. So if you look at this as a, that really, I can't borrow Bob Ross's saying, but there are no real mistakes here. So you fill in the blank if you know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
I can go through and do concrete very quickly. I'm gonna just do that right here.
So, and I've got to remember, click the white button to get a black button.
Yep. Yep. And I can delete them like that, like we talked about. I can sit and delete these as well. So I can add these white dots, turn into black dots, and I can keep going. So I've done a very sloppy job there of adding the concrete on this plan that I've never looked at, but
It's not bad if you ask me. I think you're pretty good there.
now I didn't add excuse me, I didn't add that back building that I just saw, that rear building there. So we'll come add that in. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. A little sloppy, but there we go. I've got a plan there. If I wanted to add more non-watered features, I could do that. If there's a fence, I can go click and add a fence, a pool, patio, gravel. Watered areas, I can put in a flower bed. So let me just add one. I'll just put one right up here. Now, when I do that, it asks me how I want to water this flower bed. Do I want to water it with the lawn, with shrub sprays, as a drip zone, figure it out later? Do I want to do it with emitter tubing or with pressure compensating drippers? So I'll just use that one since it's selected already, or I can select the others.
And it's making a recommendation for you there as well.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
So I can go in, play with that. Now I've got a bed up front. Now, if I click on that bed again, you'll see it's very small down in the bottom right corner. It says waters with drip zone and PC drippers. I can go change that if I want to change it later. And I can even say, don't water that. Maybe it's a desert scape. Maybe I don't have anything there. So I can go in and change that. Now, special watered areas. If I know that I want to put sprays in where the system would normally just automatically select rotors, I can go in and put in a spray zone. I would just lay that over the top. Excuse me. I would just go put that in and tell this area to do sprays, and we'll let the other side do rotors. Again, this is all just to show you what it can do. Okay.
What's the difference between a rotator zone and a rotor zone?
Yeah, a rotator zone
questions.
is like an MP rotator, like from a Hunter MP rotator. And we'll put those in more like a spray than it will a rotor. Rotors going, medium to large area rotors going up to, I think in our planner, we go up to 40-ish feet, 35 feet. I need to add a connection to my plan. So where am I going to tie into the main line? I'm just going to add that right out here.
How do I know where that is or where I should do that, Brad?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a talk to the neighbors, talk to the city. Maybe they stubbed a line for, in our case, we have secondary irrigation. They stub a line for that. And it may be inside your home. Your connection point may be inside your home where you tie into your main line in your basement, run out with an irrigation system. A lot of that is by code, so check codes for your area. A lot of it has to be done by a licensed plumber that is certified by the city or the utility to come in and put those in. So those tie-ins are a big deal. Those are the areas that trip people up the most. Our irrigation system and all the plans will kick in after that happens. So you've got your tie-in and you've got your backflow preventer. After that, we kick in with the irrigation system. Great question. I'm going to add a timer. Maybe I'm just putting this on the side of my house and I'm just going to leave that there. Again, this right here, this sleeve is for getting underneath the concrete. This will tell it where to put the pipe under my concrete. Your builder or a contractor may have left a sleeve under your sidewalk. And I may have multiples of these that I need to get under, maybe your driveway, and that will allow you to get underneath hardscape that's already in place so that the system, this tool, knows where to pipe it. Now, plan settings. At the beginning of the designer, there's actually a preparation guide that you could download, print out. Really, all it's getting to is this information right here. We're going to name this plan as a. I'm going to select my service pipe type. Now, this is what you're going to be feeding the, what feeds the main line. I'm going to select PVC in this case. I'm going to select my pipe size. And I'm going to go to a 1 inch, and I'm going to select my pressure. So you can get this information from the preparation guide. You're really looking for your available flow rate, your gallons per minute available. This really determines how many zones are created in the system, and really is a critical number. Now, if I don't have a pressure gauge, don't have a good static pressure, which I don't love static pressure because it doesn't give me my dynamic flow rate. But if I can do a bucket test, I can get a dynamic flow rate. There's instructions in the prep guide on how to do that. You'll just select your bucket size, how many seconds to fill, and it will give you this same number. So let me save that.
Yeah, so I have a question on that, Brad. You selected a 1 inch pipe size. How did you know that? You could have put a 1/2 inch. You could have put.
Yeah, great question. For the purposes of just doing the designer, I put in 1 inch, but what you can do is you can wrap a string around your pipe if you don't know. And we actually have a guy that tells you how long was the string. It's this large of a pipe. What pipe type was it? How big was the string? This is the size of pipe you have. So there's a number of ways to look at that and measure that. Fittings oftentimes are stamped with the size as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. That's a good tip with the string.
Yeah. After I've got my system settings in, I hit place manifolds. It's going to generate up to 4 valves per manifold here. And those were placed up top. And I can now move those. If I click on one, I can put one up front, and I can even rotate them to the way I want them to sit. And I can move these around. Again, it's going to be 4 valves per manifold. Once I have moved those around, I can really go to generate design. Now,
Brad, this is something I can just randomly choose where my manifolds go.
Well, we have recommendations for where to put them. Again, in the design output, there's recommendations for where they should go, and I can always move them in my design. So I don't place them near window wells. I try to keep them away from the foundation of my house if I have a basement. If a manifold has a problem, the main line supplies a manifold. If that breaks, you do not want water flooding your basement. So I try to put them away, from the house, no negative grades back to the house. I try to put it where if a manifold breaks or something happens, water's not going to flood my home. So with those moved around a little bit, I can hit generate design, and this is going to now instantly generate a design plan for us. And there it is. It's done.
Wow.
So I got a design plan from a really, a little bit of a ski-wampus design here. I'm embarrassed. I've never made such a crooked design, but I've got a design plan that now I can go and I'll just show you a few things you can do with this. First off, I can look at the parts list. So here's a parts list. Here's a total. And I can download that installation guide that I was talking to you about. Now, this add to cart button, don't try this right now. We just moved over. We're moving this over to a Shopify. So we have to move all of our cart functionality. So don't try that until about 2 weeks from now. I can download the install guide. I can view all the parts that are needed in the system here. And I can get an idea. So that's an 8-zone system. It was $2,600. I'm under $350 a zone for the parts. And that will change dramatically depending on what I do. But let me walk through this a little bit.
Can we see that parts list again?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I wanted to see that total again. So this, every piece, including nozzles, everything, 2646. Wow.
Everything is in here. Wire, sprinkler timer, grease caps to splice wires if you need to, or to tie them into the valves, valve box base, manifolds, your nozzles, your adjustable nozzles, your strip nozzles, gear drives, pressure regulated spray heads, blue lock pipe, which we talked about earlier, which is push fittings. It's all here, including the drip. So we selected drip for that flower bed. If you remember out front,
right.
The drip is here as well. So that's pretty cool. You get to see that. And let me show you then what you can do with this. I can click on head. I can move this around as well, but I can click on heads, just see my heads. I can click on pipes and just see pipes. Now I'm going to turn some of these off so it doesn't look quite as busy, but let's just go ahead and look at a zone. Let's find a zone right up front. That's okay. So there's a zone up front. I'm going to zoom in on this so it's a little bigger for people to see. And this is showing me where the heads are locating, where the pipes can run, and the printout will show me how to build every connection in this assembly. So I don't have to guess how to do this. There's literally a guide that shows me how to build every single piece of this. And I can look zone by zone. Now this is where it gets fun. I can log in on my tablet or my phone. I can be in the yard. I can design it on the tablet as well. It's easier. Phone's a little small, but you can do it. But I can then view this in the yard and start marking trenches and things. So I'm looking at another zone now. Okay, I've got these 6 heads. I can flag that, mark that, and it's all done. It's all right there. I can go see. There's my drip zone. It gave me that. Let's go to. All right, there's my spray zone. It turned that into 2 spray zones because I don't have enough volume of water available to run all of those heads at once. So it turned it into 2 zones. So it took all those pieces. Now you're wondering, okay, I don't like something about it. All right, we're going to go ahead and just delete that. We're going to go back.
Couple questions, Brad, we've got coming in before we get
let's
off.
go.
All right, so can you combine 2 water sources on this?
Combine 2 water sources. It is not going to tell you, it's not going to dig into those details.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. That's one of our ag customers is asking that question, and they have a little bit more requirement for that. So not so much for residential. And then yellow and orange zones, are they just to distinguish between 2 zones, or is
Yep.
one sprays and one's rotors? What's happening there?
It's just to distinguish between zones, and that's all that is. So so I just got rid of that, telling it to do sprays up front. I'm regenerating the design. So now I am looking at this in a new configured zone. It actually deleted some of the zones that I had. Now let me show you something that does to the price. So I've changed things, and it reproduces the parts list with a different total. That's $500 cheaper than the way I was doing it before, and creating multiple zones for sprays in that zone. I've got 1 rotor zone. It eliminated 1 or 2 zones out of this. I'll combine these so I can do all of these together with that flow rate that I have. And people may ask, well, how is that? Well, at the very beginning, I told you that the nozzle changes based on the rotor and the pattern the rotor is spraying. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 GPM on this zone. So I got rid of 2 zones up front by changing that from a spray to just letting it be rotors up front.
Wow.
So again, I can go through, I can look at everything, see how it's configured, see how it's laid out. And if I, again, go to the parts list, I'm going to get this information, as I mentioned. So 6 zones, it looks like now. So we're roughly, again, $333 a zone, whatever, $340 a zone. So there it all is. Now let me show you what the guide looks like.
Brad, that's really incredible. I'm just amazed at how simple that is to do. And wow, you made my life so much easier, especially with that parts list.
Yeah. Super simple to do. If you just have a backyard, now let me just show this before we move on to the guide. This is important. I just have a backyard. Maybe I have a very simple backyard that's 40, let's just say it's 35 by, we'll make it really simple, 35 by 70. We'll make it a perfect. Okay, and I'm a little off kilter again, so let me fix that. This has a snap to grid feature that I didn't talk about. You can turn it on and off right here, snap. That'll allow it to snap to increments on the grid and keep it very square for you. Now I can go through this process again, and I'll just next. I'm going to add a connection still. I'm going to add a timer still just to give me some of the output. I'm going to hit plan settings like we did before. So again, this is like a under 2-minute design. Save, place my manifolds. I place those. It just needs 1. I'm going to hit generate design. So if you just have a backyard, I need a quick parts list of what to do. Okay, that's all I need. I go to my plan and parts list. It's one zone. I get everything I need to still do this, to still do the job. The parts are all tailored to this. This one system, because I'm adding the timer is not spread across 7 zones now. It's in one timer. So I've got a timer in there. I've got sprinkler wire. I've got some main line. I've got all of the things that are just attributed to one zone now. So the cost for that one zone went up a little bit, right? Because you're adding the timer and all those features. So, but there it is. I can look at the same details on that, and voila.
So what if I want, so I think you ended up with rotors there, right?
Uh-huh.
So what if I want to change that to sprays? What if I'm in rotors now and I want to swap it to rotators?
Yeah, so I can go in and hit special watered areas. I can do rotator or spray right there. I can select that. The tool selects based on the area, like I mentioned, automatically for you. So if you want to define that, I'll show you with both here. I just lay that over the top and go, let me just do sprays in this area, and then we can change that if we want.
Yeah, so I'm thinking more for a retrofit system. I already have sprays in, I want to go to rotator, or I've got rotors in, I want to go to rotator.
And voila, now it's a spray zone system. And it gives me a new parts list. My total went up because I added more zones.
Wow.
I can look at these in just.
So Brad, we've got another question coming in, and it's about slopes. What if you had a slope on your property? Does the design tool take that into account at all, or is that something you're going to have to edit on your own?
Great question. No slope is taken into account at this point. So yeah, it doesn't do anything with slopes at this point.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Most properties residential are flat anyway. So
yep. So nothing with slope. The thing with slope that I would suggest, and that this is as you know, regulations are changing for pressure regulated heads very quickly across the country. We've got pressure regulated with a check valve in the bottom so that they don't, an anti-drain type of a head. So I would recommend those on slopes. And we will be updating the tool to include those heads. So
Brad, you're very quick at this, and it looked very easy. If I'm messing around with it for a little while and I want to save my plan and come back to it later, how do I do that?
yeah, so if you click the save button up top, you'll save the plan. You have to get to a certain point in the design. So let me just show you, excuse me, plan settings. That plan settings, I do have to name the plan before it'll save. So
Okay.
I'll call this spray zone save. And if I go back to my list of plans up top, there's spray zone.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question that I get from people from time to time. I'm in that design that I did, but I want to change it and I don't want to mess up with the original. So if I go back to my plans, I can hit this copy and it will create a spray zone copy for me. Now I have a master, if you will, and a copy, and I can go in and I can say, well, what would it be like if I get rid of my spray zone and maybe I put a shed over in the corner. Let's try that. Whoops. Maybe I've just got a little shed to put down, and let's shrink that. Shrink it. Whoops. 12 by 16. Okay. So now I've got that one. I don't want to have to keep adjusting it if I don't like it. I could delete that, but a lot of times if you're doing intricate designs and you're doing a big design and you're spending a lot of time with this, sometimes you want to try new things. You might have a landscape design already in the tool and you want to say, well, what would it look like if I add these other things that I'm trying to do to my backyard, but keep the original intact, or keep iterations of your design ideas. So I can go through and I can hit generate design on that. It will take into account what I've just changed and give me a new design. So that is all taken care of right there. So super simple. Or maybe I say I'm going to move my manifold. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to orient it, this direction. and I can regenerate the design. This is changing the calculation, of course, of all the pipe that you're going to use. So now I've got a new layout with the manifold move. So just those types of things. In fact, let me show you one that I did, and let me show you another tool or another feature in this. This was for my own house. I went in and I actually just put in some house updates, and I wanted to figure out concrete. So it's a little off here, but I went in and did this design, and if I click on that, you can see down in the bottom left, it's going to show you how many square feet of concrete that is. So a question we get all the time, or that we have all the time, is I've got this really, complex design or weird shape. It's going to take me a while to figure out how many square feet that is. I've got curves. Maybe I don't want to go through the hassle of that. This quickly tells me exactly how many square feet. So maybe you're trying to figure out how much mulch you need. There's great calculators you can plug this into. Maybe I'm going to mulch this bed right here. That's 78 square feet. Or maybe I'm going to add all of these together and get mulch for those. So it tells me how many square feet that feature is. Maybe I'm looking at adding a gravel pad, or a part of my driveway or something. That's 384 square feet. So it shows all of that, or a deck. Shows all of that down in the bottom left, and all those features. So you can sit and play, tinker, come up with new designs. And it's really an incredible flexible tool for doing, landscape design in a very light format. And coming up with some really critical pieces of information you need. It will tell me my lot size, square footage of my lot, those types of things. So any other questions have come in, Richard, or any other
Yes,
questions?
one last question. If I do a really good photo or satellite image of my yard, I can save it in there, and I can always do like these things, like you mentioned, get different mulch sizes, or figure out how much it's going to cost me to do something with my concrete.
Yep, exactly. So here's the design I had already done. Yeah, maybe I'm going to, try and get a rough idea of what it would cost to pour all of this. I've got 2,300 square feet of 2,354 square feet of concrete to pour here. So I can start to play with that. I've got flower beds in this one. This flower bed is 308 square feet. Very helpful if I'm trying to figure out mulch 4 inches deep. How many bags of mulch do I need, or how many yards of mulch do I need? How many cubic yards? And then I can just go to my home center, or I can make a phone call and have someone deliver. I've plugged this one in. I think this one, don't quote me, but I had plugged it into a mulch calculator. I think it was 3 cubic yards of mulch. So, so even just in a really something you didn't expect coming into a sprinkler design tool, there's some surprise and delights like that in there. And this plan is a good example. This is 8 zones that I had already done before the meeting here. And if I click on parts list, that's $2,400, $300 a zone roughly. And then we'll go over to that guide just briefly and show you what that gives you. This guide was based on that design. So first of all, it has a checklist, tells you everything you need to do to install the system. Follow these steps. I'm going to skip a lot of pages here, but highlight just a few things. Talks about finding out what type of backflow prevention device is required. Flagging your yard. We even go into the detail of telling people in a non-freezing area, this is how deep your hole should be to put in a valve box base with crushed rock and a standard 6-inch valve box, 6-inch high valve box, or extension. 17-inch hole if you're going to do it in a freezing climate. So just every little detail is spelled out in here, including, these assembly numbers. Now, this A4, see it at the top of your page, you're going to see these A numbers, or assembly. I'm going to show you some others as we get further down in the design here.
This is 60 pages. I mean, this is really good detail.
It's a lot of detail. Like I said, get your printer paper out and some extra ink, or use it on a tablet or a phone if you don't want to print. An A11, what is an A11? Well, it shows me here, this is what it is. It's a 1-inch blue lock tee. That's a 1-inch pipe, 1-inch pipe, 1-inch pipe. An A13 is 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 3/4 inch, commonly known as a bull tee. And where those go on the plan is showing up in the actual pages at the end of the design. So I just talked about an A13. There's an A13 right there. So I know I'm going to build a bull tee there. This is a 10-foot nozzle in a quarter pattern and an A19. So I can reference back to A19. So a lot of times what I'll tell people is print out the zone pages that I'm just looking at there. Sorry, I'm skipping some drip guide pages. Sorry if that's scrolling fast for everyone. And here's a quick guide for all of the assemblies in the zones. I can print this one page, I could print the other zone pages, and I've got a reference to every connection that I have to build in this irrigation system. So it's all right here, it's all spelled out. It's like it's not as easy as a Lego set, but if you've ever put together something like a like one of these bigger swing sets, very similar to something like that.
Brad, this was awesome today, and I'm borrowing a word from one of our viewers who said this is really awesome. They also say it's really dummy proof. When you look at all the detail that's in there, I am amazed that it is so well done, and you can put this design together so quickly. Thank you for showing us and taking us through this today.
Yeah, absolutely. My contact info was up front, brad.wardle@husqvarnagroup.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but go use the designer. Go create some beautiful designs and some good irrigation systems. And again, it's it's fast, free, and easy. So
yeah, well, you know where you can find me this afternoon. I'll be on the designer. But look, thanks so much, Brad. I really appreciate it. Great job. Want to thank all the viewers today for tuning in. We know you guys are busy these days, and we really appreciate that you're willing to spend a little bit of your day with us educating on water conservation, sustainability, and today design, important design for all that. Remember, you can watch all our videos for free. All these webinars are for free, and wherever you download your favorite podcasts, you can find us there. Just search for the Water Connections podcast, and you can listen while you're working, educate yourself, and I think that's really a cool thing. Let's see. Next week, we're going to be back with Dr. Kelly Kopp, and she is going to be talking about a full sustainable plan, comprehensive plan for your landscape. Should be really interesting and really exciting. She's really going to focus on all the things you need to do to have a truly sustainable landscape, and we're looking forward to that. Brad, thanks again. We really appreciate your time today. And
that's going to be a great one next week. I'll be sure to tune into that one for sure as well. But thanks for having me, Richard. Thank you to everyone who watched, and hopefully you can go out and enjoy the weather that's still available for a few more months.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brad. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.